Welcome to Music Makers on DNP with your host, Randy Powers. Today we are sitting with singer-songwriter, guitarist, instrumentalist, Eric Brooke. How you doing, Eric?
I'm doing awesome. Thanks for having me.
Eric, you have worked and played with so many local and national legends. We got a lot to cover today, so we'll start at the very beginning. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Wisconsin, came here early 90s. Before that, I toured all over the U.S. with several different bands and hung out. My first recording time was with Butch Vig, who ended up producing Nirvana's Nevermind album and also ended up being the drummer and producer for Garbage, who had a ton of hits. It was pretty cool before I even got to here. I always think of my life as I have my Wisconsin life and then I have my Ohio life. It seems like I've lived two different lives in that amount of time.
So what brought you to the area and where are you at now?
I ended up in Ohio because my sister and her husband were starting a chiropractic business, and I had just gotten off of the road, and they were having trouble finding employees to get rolling, so they asked me to come, and I obviously said, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know chiropractic. And she said, you're smart. You can do this. So I came to Ohio, and I ended up working about every position they had, all the while still playing music. I found different people here. I ended up in a version of the band Chaser, who had a lot of success in the area early on. I ended up quitting the chiropractic part of my life and just started playing, and there were so many opportunities in this area to play full-time, which wasn't available in Wisconsin. So I thought, I'm just going to hang out here. And I did. And I'm still here.
When you were in Wisconsin, I suppose that's when you first started listening to music and learning how to play music?
My oldest sister is the biggest music fan in the world. She knew every band, everything. I knew really nothing at all. When I was 12, 13, she turned me on to the Guess Who and Edgar Winter, Alice Cooper, giving me all their CDs. My first concert she took me to, I was a big Peter Frampton fan at the time, and she took me to the Frampton Comes Alive tour, which had Jay Giles opening. So I was a little kid, and she had me in the front row right in front of the speakers. And Jay Giles started, and I started crying, and I'm like, I can't hear, I'm deaf, I can't hear. So she took me to the back of the Coliseum, and we watched the rest of the show, and then from there on out, she took me to Kiss Alive 2, Eddie Money, Cheap Trick, Dream Police, the Fleetwood Mac, Rumors. She took me to every amazing concert you could possibly go to in the 70s and early 80s, and that was my upbringing on rock and roll.
You must have been really young.
Yeah.
Like, how old were you when it was that first concert?
I can't be exactly sure, but it was probably 11, 12.
I had a very similar situation. I had a brother that was 7 years older than me, and he took me to my first concert in 77, and it was Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
Nice.
And then I saw Rush, and then Emerson, Lake and Palmer again, and then David Bowie. So it sounds like a very similar growing up situation that you had with your sister. How much older was she than you?
7, 8 years.
Yeah, that's exactly how it was with me.
Yeah.
So in a way, she was kind of babysitting you, but she was also hanging out with you and turning you on all this great music.
We are so lucky, you and I, to have an older sibling that was into music, because obviously it stuck with us for our whole lives.
Absolutely, without question. So how did you get started playing music, and what instruments did you begin with?
That's a good one, too. So my ambition as a youngster was to be a Major League Baseball pitcher. And all I did was study pitching. It was 24/7. I was just coming into my own around 16, 17 years old. The big guy from the area was umping. That was a great pitcher, and I was on. I was really on, and he's like, this kid's got something. Well, I got up to bat. I swung. My back cracked. I couldn't hardly walk. Had to go to the chiropractor. They said I had a messed up vertebrae and that I needed to quit. So I was crushed, and I was like, now I don't know what I even want to do. So I was riding across town to Summers Driver's Ed at the time, because I was in between ages, so I went during the summer, and I ran into a guy riding a bicycle, and we ended up riding all the time together, and I started singing Moving in Stereo by the Cars while we were riding our bikes, and he's like, man, you sound good. You should join our band. I'm like, yeah, whatever. ended up going over, and the leader of the band was my next door neighbor when I was little. So I knew this guy forever, and I ended up, that was it. I went over and started singing with that band. My first gig was on the Jerry Lewis Telethon in Wisconsin. I went up and sang, I remember Midnight Rendezvous by the Babies and Only the Strong Survive by REO. And we went back to school, and everyone at school had seen the telethon. And, obviously you're just like, I'm super cool now. Like everyone's going, I saw you on TV.
Yeah.
And I was hooked.
Did you guys end up moving in stereo?
We didn't.
You did not?
We didn't. But sometimes I do it on my acoustic show to this day.
We must be somewhere in the same age range, even though you look a lot younger than I do. Just a quick story. My first job was at the cinema, Randall Park Mall. At the time, the movie that was playing was Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Well, everybody knows the famous scene with Phoebe Cates.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I was an usher. I had my little blue jacket and my little black bow tie. I had it timed perfectly to go check the theater whenever that scene came on.
So you were like rat,
yeah.
You were like a rat working at the movie theater.
So as you were growing up, what were some of the influences or bands that meant a lot to you in your formative years?
There's so many. My favorite band of all time, and the one that probably got me totally motivated for being a musician, was Cheap Trick. So I'm from southern Wisconsin, and they were from Rockford, Illinois, which was only 30 miles apart. Before anyone in the world or in the United States knew Cheap Trick, they were kind of local. My sister saw them at a YMCA for like $3. And then I was just totally turned on. The very first album was awesome, but I kind of missed that boat. But the second album that had I Want You to Want Me, the studio version, which is not very great, but the rest of the album is amazing. That turned me on to music, 100%. And the Cars. Mm-hmm. It was around that time the Cars were there. REO Speedwagon was also from Illinois, and they were probably bigger in our area than they were in the rest of the United States until they really hit big.
It was kind of interesting with bands like Cheap Trick, where they would go to Japan and they would be the Beatles, but they could probably go back to Rockford, Illinois, and there'd be a couple hundred people.
Exactly.
And REO reminds me a bit of what we'll talk about coming up here in a moment, the Michael Stanley Band, kind of a regional thing.
Yeah.
The Cars, you had Benjamin Orr and Rick Ocasek, who both went to school in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Tell us about some of your early experiences playing with other musicians and in bands.
So when I first started playing, it was kind of cool. I mean, obviously, the very first bands you always play in, you're trying to play the covers that are cool and that are out right there that at that time that everyone loves. Fortunately, I was with guys kind of at the beginning that wanted to do originals. So we started writing a lot of songs. We decided we wanted to record an album. And this is within the first 2 years of me even picking up a guitar. At first I started out just being a lead vocalist, and then I picked up a guitar. Actually, I was a bass player in the first power pop band I was in, but then I ended up being a guitarist. But at the time I was a bass player, and we went to record our first album in Madison, Wisconsin at this place called Smart Studios. I was new to the scene. I didn't know anything. I had no clue what I was walking into. And we walked into the engineer, and he's like, "Hi, I'm Butch Vig."
Wow.
And I didn't know. Well, at the time, he wasn't a big deal. He wasn't a big deal. He was a big deal still in Madison at the time. He was in a band called Spooner. And Spooner ended up turning into Firetown, and Firetown turned into Garbage. But while he was working on Firetown, I was in the studio, and I got to hear the original tracks, and this is really cool stuff. And
the original tracks of
Firetown.
Okay.
Which I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but check them out. They sounded like a lot like REM-ish.
So we're in about mid-'80s, late 80s?
Yeah, this was 84, 85, somewhere in there. And he was moving from Spooner to Firetown, creating that thing. And we went in as a three-piece, just went in and played everything straight up. Like boom, 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 played other stuff. And Butch was into it. He thought it was kind of cool. So being the normal band, the drummer spontaneously combusts, and we ended up not getting along, and Butch loved us. So he calls me after we break up, and you're having the headbutting thing, and this is my almost moment. Butch called me up and said, "Would you guys like to open for us on tour with Spooner?" And I'm like, "Oh, Butch, we broke up. We're done. But thanks for calling. Appreciate it." He goes, "Oh, we really, really enjoyed you. It would have been great. Thanks." And then I went and recorded one more song with him solo, but that was it. If we would have toured with Spooner, who turned into garbage, right after Spooner, he recorded Nirvana Nevermind and recorded Smashing Pumpkins, and we would have struck up a friendship on tour.
Got signed to a major label.
You just never know.
$1 million, overdosed, went to rehab, right? Did the whole thing.
Well, that's what my girlfriend said to me. She said, think, though, you have 2 great sons, and you have a wonderful career here. If anything would have changed, you wouldn't have them.
It's very true, because when it comes to the kids and the family, you only get one shot at that.
Yeah.
One of your current projects is In the Heartland, the music of the Michael Stanley Band. Michael was such a fixture in the Northeast Ohio music scene, setting records for the most sellouts at Blossom, legendary New Year's Eve shows at the Coliseum, classic albums such as Stage Pass, MSB, Heartland, and more. Members of In the Heartland include guitarist Danny Powers, bassist Michael Gismondi, and guitarist Gary Markowski, all members of MSB in various lineups over the years. Have you known the guys previous, and how did that project come together?
I knew Michael previously. Of course, he's not in the project. I want to tell a quick story about Michael. Larry Carroll might actually remember this. I did a grand opening for my music store in Strasburg. I had Brooke Music, and I did a grand opening, and Michael Stanley played for the grand opening at the Strasburg Fire Department. He came into town to do the show, and I said, do you need a limo? What do you want? He said, no, I'm cool. So he walked down the main drag on 21 with his guitar case in his hand up to the music store, and just walked into the music store, and the Times reporter had somebody there, and they actually took a picture of him walking down the street in Strasburg
with his guitar and
case. And it ended up being the front page of the newspaper that week.
Did you ask him to do it, or how did it come about then?
No, I wanted to get him a limo to take him to the fire department, and he just decided that he was going to walk down the street to my music store, and he and I just went inside and sat by ourselves and talked for a while, and he bought something from me, and we went over and did the show, and I opened up the show doing my original stuff, and then he played. And Scott Matavy, a local sound man here who's amazing, recorded it, and I actually still have the recording of Michael's acoustic show.
Wow, that's an awesome story. What are some of your memories of seeing the MSB?
Well, here's the thing. I'm from Wisconsin, and Michael Stanley was very regional. I mean, he's the king of Cleveland. Mm-hmm. But at that time, nobody really knew him except for the fact that he had, the 30-second video ever played on MTV? Something like that. I can't remember the number perfectly.
He Can't Love You.
Yeah, He Can't Love You.
It's like the 13th or something like that.
Yeah, I saw that. And my sister, once again, my older sister, being amazingly into music, she bought the Heartland album. So not a whole lot of people in Wisconsin even knew who he was. But my band ended up doing He Can't Love You, and she played Lover for me, which ended up being like a real sentimental thing because I rewrote the lyrics for something that happened in our family. So I had a connection with him even in Wisconsin. I never got to see him in the sellout Blossom days. But at this point now, I played all of the songs with the guys in the band. We have the high energy show they had, and we tried to be like the band was during the Blossom shows.
Well, didn't Michael Gismondi or Gary that used to wear like duck outfits and crazy outfits on stage?
Gary Markowski was Adam Ant. It was before there was an Adam Ant. He was Atom Ant, Atom. And he came out in goggles, a G-string-ish diaper-looking thing at the Blossom shows. And he actually wore that in the Heartland, played at the Music Box, and we had Gary Markowski, Michael Gismondi, Jennifer Lee from the Resonators. Mm-hmm. They were all playing with us, and Danny Powers. Mm-hmm. Danny plays every gig with us. Gary came out, but he had the Ant-Man costume over his clothes.
That's awesome.
He's a character. He's so fun. He's a great entertainer. The reason I ended up in this band, one, sadly, was the lead singer, Kelly Derrick, who also had the MSB tribute band Stage Pass back in the day when Michael was hot, like super hot. Michael even heard the band and gave his go for it to him. Actually, Kelly even didn't show up for one gig. He was late, and Michael got up with the band and sang his own songs in the tribute band. There's so many stories, it's like I could go on for days.
Yeah, I hear you. I got to see him for my 18th birthday at Blossom for one of those sold-out shows.
Really? job in the Highland. Make a move you never will. Walk around on baby. Everybody dressed to kill. Some got their reason. Some just got time. Some think about last season. Some think about the life of crime. And I said, hey baby, gonna have a time tonight. Hey darling, would you like a ride? Who's that baby? Got a little time to kill, baby, feel like trying. You just like flying, but nobody writes the names down. Something that you gotta go through. Yeah, nothing ever seems to work out the way they play. It's something to think about leaving, a million will ever do. Even one more try, in the Highland, Highland. Oh, 150 midnight. Brothers choose up sides. The darkness for the ladies. A lonely parade. While on the west side sparks are flying. Oh, and the rich boys come around. Who ask me, Lord, leave it alone. Even though the girl in pride. And I said, hey baby, we're gonna have a time today. Hey darling, would you like a ride? The girl said, baby, got a little time to little bit, feel like trying. But you just like flying, but no writes the names down. There's something that you gotta go through. Yet nothing ever seems to work out the way they play. Something to think about leaving the middle members do. Give it one more try, in the Highland, in the Highland. Well, now I know your rights laid down. Something that you gotta go through. And nothing ever seems to work out the way they play. Something to think about leaving, little will do. Give it one more time, in the Highland, in the Highland. Whoa, in the Highland. In the Highland. In the Highland.
That was In the Heartland by the band In the Heartland, and we are in studio here on DNP. Our guest today is Eric Brooke. Eric, do you dig deep into the Michael Stanley catalog and pull out some deep cuts? You mentioned Spanish Nights, which might be considered a little deeper.
Yeah, we even go way deeper than that. We do some stuff. Promises, that's a real deep cut, and it's a super cool song. That's a song actually Kevin Raleigh wrote. And I think it's one of the few that Kevin Raleigh wrote that Michael Stanley sang. We do that. We do In Between the Lines. I guess that's not such a deep cut, but it is, a pretty deep cut. We do Last Night. I'd say probably at least a quarter of our show is deep album cuts.
It was kind of interesting with the Michael Stanley band where you had Michael Stanley who had, deeper resonant voice, and then you had Kevin Raleigh who had the wonderful higher end clean tenor, and it was the Michael Stanley band, but a lot of the big hits for them were actually sung by Kevin Raleigh. Is it difficult for you to sing the Kevin Raleigh songs, or does someone else help you with that? Or
So when I first joined the band, our drummer Jim Simonian had the high Kevin Raleigh voice, so he would sing He Can't Love You. He'd sing a couple other songs, When I'm Holding You Tight. So it was a perfect mix. But Jim had to leave the band because of some medical reasons. We got Michael Scott Nelson, who is also a great vocalist and can sing the high things. But at first he was trying to learn all of Tommy Dobeck's parts, which Tommy Dobeck's an amazing drummer, and just joining the band, and we were doing 26, 28 songs. That was a lot of work. And he had to sing all the high harmonies. So he wasn't really comfortable with doing the lead vocals at first. Now he's actually singing one of the songs. But our sound man that we just got, Brian Stevens, he's got an amazing voice. So he sings He Can't Love You right now, and he's going to pick up a couple more Kevin Rowley songs. So I get to stick to just the Michael Stanley thing.
Cool. So he'll actually get out from behind the soundboard and come in and guest for a few songs. That's very cool. Have you guys ever considered in this lineup, because you do have such amazing players, doing any original songs?
It's been in my mind for quite a while. I don't think we've actually spoken of it as a band, but I'm hoping that will happen soon, because it is a great band, and we need to get our little own identity other than just doing the tribute.
I was talking with Straight On, who's the Heart tribute band. We did an interview with them, and one of the things that came to my mind was, with a band like yours, you're doing the In the Heartland, you could open a half-hour set doing your originals under a different name. Would that make any sense?
To me, it would. Okay. I think so. I think it'd be great.
What types of venues do you guys play, and what are some of your favorite venues?
We do a lot of theaters and a lot of festivals. Well, one is Parma Ribs and Rock. It's at the Tri-C campus. We've set attendance records there, and it's just amazing. That was my first gig I ever did with the band, by the way. And it was as far as you could see people. And Kelly Derrick had just passed away, and I had just joined the band. We practiced for a few months, and that was his gig. Fortunately, nobody told me this while we were playing the first show, but that was his gig for like years and years and years that night with whatever band he was playing with. I ended up having to walk into that, but I didn't know. I'm so thankful that I didn't know.
Yeah, it could have been difficult. It'd be like Brad Gillis trying to step in for Randy Rhoads.
Right.
You know, it's like
in front of Randy Rhoads' family.
Right, exactly. That's a little difficult. Well, speaking of venues, here's one that has a video that goes along with it that was shot outside the Cleveland Browns Stadium. This one's from back in 2000. This is Brownstown, CLE, Here We Go Brownies on DNP.
It's about to go down in Brownstown, CLE, let me hear ya. Say, here we go, brownies, here we go. Here we go, brownies, here we go. Here we go, brownies, here we go. Cleveland Browns are getting red hot. Let's get the party started in the Muni Lot. Orange and brown as far as you can see. And the Browns are gonna feed in the CLE. Say, here we go, brownies, here we go. Here we go, brownies, here we go. Here we go, brownies, here we go. All the other teams will be black and blue. Get the smelling salts out, all will never come to.
Where am I?
Cleveland's D will chase a QB down. And with the helmet hit, he'll be laying on the ground. Again.
Welcome back to Music Makers program on DNP. We're back with Eric Brooke. We were just listening to Brownstown, CLE, Here We Go, Brownies. Now that looked like it was a fun one to record and shoot the video.
Oh, it was amazing. Had such a great time in the Muni lot, in the pit, with all the diehard Browns fans. Writing and recording, it was a blast. I had my friends all in there, Saxy Rob, Brett Kunash, longtime Canton musician, Tony Forster, my better half, Kristen Gallagher, was in on there singing harmonies. Alan Lind produced it and played drums. It was a great time.
I like the one part in there where the girl says, "Maybe next year."
That's Kristen.
Is it?
Yeah, and I almost forgot my buddy Rick Cunningham, who's played bass with me for years. They were all amazing, too.
Did you write all the words for that?
I did.
Yeah, that must have been a good time. I was watching a YouTube video of you with Charles Butler doing a live show on Facebook during COVID, mostly all original material. They were acoustic songs, and many of them I felt were very heartfelt and relatable. Can you talk a little bit about that pairing?
Charlie and I have been really good friends for decades, and started out at a jam at Horner's Corner in downtown Canton, which no longer exists. But Brian and Tim Horner had a great venue down there, and they stuck with me. Tim and I sat down there during nights that there was 2 people in the place trying to get this jam going, and it ended up being one of the best jams in Canton, and it lasted years and years. And I met Charlie there, and Charlie's got a great voice, and we just have a really nice connection, and he likes singing my songs, and I like him singing my songs, and we like to harmonize together, so it works out well.
Well, you do have a very smooth vocal approach on the more acoustic stuff, but you also have a very strong rock voice with some rasp and some grit when it's called for. The other thing that struck me was your ability to do the high harmonies as well on many of the songs. Is that a natural thing for you, or do you really have to work on the harmony parts?
At first, I was always the lead vocalist. I started out the lead vocalist, and I was the lead vocalist forever. So harmonies were really rough for a while. And then it was just one day they clicked, and it was very simple, and I didn't even have to think about it. All the bands I play in now, if there's another guy singing lead vocals, it just happens. I don't even have to try. The high parts, I was doing like a Michael Stanley-ish vocal, and one day I could sing AC/DC. It just happened.
Bon or?
I sound more like Brian Johnson.
Brian, okay.
Unfortunately, I love Bon.
When you were first starting out singing and writing songs, did you write most of the songs on guitar?
The very first songs I wrote on bass and vocals, because that's when I was doing the power pop thing at the very beginning. It's weird. Every song's different. Like one song I'll have all the melody, and then I put the chords behind it. And then some songs I have the bass, and some songs I have the guitar, and then I write the vocals over it. Sometimes I just play piano and write a piano thing, and then I write the lyrics and melodies over that. So,
did you find it difficult to sing and play initially at the same time?
No. That was never anything for me.
And did you take any type of formal lessons?
I took a few lessons from the Arnold brothers in Janesville, Wisconsin. When I first started, Jeff Arnold was teaching me, and I went to the first lesson, and I didn't bring my book, Mary Had a Little Lamb, and said, "Hey, can you show me this song?" And he's like, "Okay, but you got to bring your book next week." Next week, I didn't have my book. I forgot it. "Can you show me this song?" Third week, I said, "I forgot it." He said, "I'm sorry. I'm not saying you can't play, but I'm not your teacher." So then his younger brother, Matt, started teaching me, and I asked him a few songs, and he taught me some songs. We did that for about 3 weeks, and then I went off on my own.
Well, let's listen to one of your originals off your 2011 CD, The Road to Here. You might catch a tiny bit of a Michael Stanley vibe on this one. This one is titled OK on DNP 102.3.
Every time I try to slip away. You march in on me and try to take it away. Why can't I have a little time? If it were up to me, I'd leave it up to you. Just try to lose the hopes you've got me jumping through. Why won't you let me unwind? If you could turn your cheek, learn to walk away, I think I'd like you more. I think that we'd be okay. Sometimes I go out late, I like to ride around. The trucks are flying by, but I don't hear a sound. Now I feel peace again. I take the back roads, hoping to get lost. I want to leave this world, no matter what it costs. I'll charge it to someone else. If you just knew the words, you'd tell me what to say. It'd make us free again. It's cool with me. It's cool that we agree. Yeah, yeah. If you could turn your cheek, learn to walk away, I think I'd like you more. I think we'd be okay. I think I'd like you more. I think we'd be okay. I think that we'd be okay.
DNP 102.3, The Music Maker Show. Today we were with Eric Brooke. We just listened to something off of your self-titled record there. Another project you've been involved with was the Eric Brooke, Don Dixon, and Joe Vitale release. Joe was born in Canton, has been a drummer and multi-instrumentalist with Crosby, Stills, Nash, Joe Walsh, the Eagles, just to name a few if that's not enough. I didn't know this, but he was temporarily the original drummer for Michael Stanley before Tommy Dobeck.
If you listen to Let's Get the Show on the Road, not the Stage Pass version, but the original version, that's Joe Vitale. And you can tell because Joe's got this way of dropping the snare out, and he's got a certain groove that, I mean, I can hear Joe Vitale a million miles away. It was amazing.
That studio version, too, had like bongos at the end. Mm-hmm. It got kind of almost Caribbean-ish towards the end did. On the studio. And then on the very first Michael Stanley album, that has Joe Walsh playing slide guitar.
Vitale was on that. If you can remember Funky is the drummer, it was like a goofy little song on there, Funky is the drummer. Yeah, that was Joe Walsh, Vitale, and Kenny Passarelli.
Joe Walsh did the beautiful slide on Rosewood Bitters.
I didn't even know that.
Mm-hmm. That's Joe Walsh on there.
Does he remember he did it?
I don't know. That album was hit or miss.
I bet you at that time he didn't.
Well, it's interesting you mention that because when Joe and Joe Walsh would get together, they would do those goofy little bits, too, on the Joe Walsh records. So.
He's a funny guy.
And then Don Dixon, the legendary producer of such bands as R.E.M. and the Smithereens. He's also a bassist, vocalist, and songwriter. He's married to Marty Jones from Uniontown, Ohio, and he produced several of her records. Don also works quite a bit with other local legends that I've had the pleasure to interview. Canton's own Ryan Humbert.
Hey, Ryan, he's got your T-shirt on right now.
Eric's pointing at me because I got the shirt on. Ryan's actually down in Nashville now playing the Grand Ole Opry with his outfit, the Shootouts.
They've done very well for themselves.
So this must have been such a thrill working with these guys. And how did that project come together?
Joe Vitale produced several projects for me when I first was around Canton. And then Don did an interview. I had a music magazine called The Informer magazine, which was based primarily out of T County, and it was also in Stark and went up toward Cleveland. And Larry Carroll was instrumental in taking photos for that magazine. It was a great time. Trent Schaefer started it with me, and I delivered it. I put it together. I got the ads. It was just all-encompassing. It was a lot of work, and I did it for just about 10 years. And then the internet pretty much killed print. So
that's interesting. I'm trying to recall, because I worked at the Exchange for years, so I'm sure you were dropping it off at Exchange stores, the record Exchange.
100%.
Is that how you got to meet Joe and he started producing you?
I never even, no. I met Joe kind of through Chaser. It was the second band I joined when I moved to Ohio, and Chaser had done something with Joe. I sent him a demo, and I had his P.O. box. I sent him a demo, and he responded and said he'd love to do something with me. We went up to Primetime Studio in Akron and recorded an album. Dale Peters from James Gang also did some stuff with us, and Joe did several of my projects after that. We had a nice friendship. And Don Dixon, that's where I started the Informer magazine. That's where I got off the tangent. Don Dixon did an interview with Super Potsy in my magazine Informer, and then Super Potsy became friends with him and actually went off to the East Coast with him for some shows he was going to do, and he said, you should call Don and do some recording with him. I'm like, okay. So I ended up calling Don, and he actually said, sure. So I got Don, and I called Joe, and Joe said, sure, I'd love to play with Donnie and you. And we went to our friend DSO's house, and she had an art studio in her garage that was really beautiful. We went in there and we set up for 3 days and wrote and recorded the whole album right there.
Did you write all the lyrics to that?
I did.
Did you come up with most of the guitar parts?
I did.
No kidding.
I did. I came up with most of the songs, and then, you know, they added their flavor, and there's some that I credit to all of us, because obviously they gave it a certain vibe, being Don Dixon and Joe Vitale.
That must have really been a highlight.
It was insane. And my friend Trevor Meyer was engineering it, who used to drum for me as well. It was great because we would write and record on the fly 5 songs or 4 songs. And then it would be like, okay, I have to go home and write lyrics for this, come back and sing them tomorrow as we laid down tracks for like 4 more songs. So it was fast. It was really fast. And some of the things came out really, really super good. And Trevor, my buddy's like, man, you nailed that one, you know, and that made me feel good. He's like, with all the pressure of having Don Dixon and Joe Vitale, and you pulled it off, and some of these songs turned out really, really amazing.
I think, too, listening to the songs off of that, it doesn't have a Rush feel. It's definitely a harder rocking approach. But sometimes when you don't have all the time in the world to nitpick and go back and, you know, overdub a million different things, you get that little rawer sound. You know, it's like a real sound.
You nailed it. We were a garage band. We recorded in the garage.
There you go. Did you guys record that at Prime?
No, we recorded that at Dee's Art Studio garage.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you have your own recording equipment that you use? Or?
No, it was all Trevor's. My buddy Trevor brought it all in.
Wow, that's cool.
And it was
like almost like a mobile setup.
Yeah, and even the drums that Joe played were Trevor's drums.
That must have been cool playing in the art studio too, right? Kind of ambience and.
Oh, it was great. She had a kiln. She had everything. It was really cool.
Well, here's a track off of that release. This is Queen of the Freaks on DNP 102.3.
Hard as a rock. She's stone and lazy. Her face could stop a clock. Her nose is biscuit, and her tattoo is rarely seen. She's sexy and she's mean. She's the queen of the freaks. She's the queen of the freaks. That girl is lost all control. Her pleasure is your pain. Don't let her go, let her go. pretty eyes and long, long legs. She likes the holes in her jeans to show the flesh to her slaves. She smells the fear in the room as she slips off her skirts. You know it makes her feel good the more that you hurt. Blood, sweat, and tears, don't show your fears. Blood, sweat, and tears, don't show your fears.
Step right up and see our main attraction. Discover running wild in suburban Ohio. She'll make your pulse race and your body shake. You won't believe your eyes. Step right up and see the queen of the freaks.
Desire's running hot. You're feeling a little weak. You wanna tell her to stop, but the freak won't let you speak. It's feeling so damn good, and it hurts so bad. You know you start to cry, but it's not 'cause you're sad. She's the queen of the freaks. That girl is lost no control. Her pleasure is your pain. Don't let her go, let her go. She's the queen of the freaks. She's the queen of the freaks.
That was Queen of the Freaks. We are with Eric Brooke here on the Music Makers program. I also saw in your bio that you worked with producer Bruce Vigg. We talked a little bit earlier about him, who famously did the Nirvana Nevermind record. He's done Smashing Pumpkins, Foo Fighters, like you mentioned. Now, Don Dixon was initially selected to do the Nevermind record, but unfortunately it didn't work out for him.
You know, that was crazy. I've talked to Don about it, and he said it was the best choice they made because he would have made that album raw, like we were talking about earlier. He
Like
wouldn't
Bleach.
have done the double tracking, the vocals like Kurt did. He said they picked the right guy with Butch because he said it wouldn't have been the same album at all.
Because you had worked with Bruce years earlier, could you catch little nuances of his production on that record? I think at some point he slipped a couple things past Kurt that Kurt might not have gone for. Or what are your thoughts?
When I went into Smart Studio, one of the times we went to record, he had all of these PA speakers in the live room. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, we recorded the drums, and now we're running the drums back through this huge PA, and we have mics in the room all over the place, and we're getting a different drum sound to make it huge and big sounding. And I'm like, you brought a whole PA in just to make the drum. Like, so Butch was very innovative even when he was starting off. He knew what he wanted to do, and he experimented a lot with cool sounds.
I wonder if Dave Grohl got that idea, because that sounds like something he would do.
I'm sure Dave Grohl learned a lot from Butch.
So out of the thousands of gigs that you've played, I think over 6,000 gigs you've played?
Yeah.
I'm sure you have some interesting stories. What are some of the funniest or best or worst things that have happened while you're gigging?
There's so many. One time I was so sick and I had to set a bucket up behind my stack, my Marshall stack, and I would go and sing, and then I go back and get sick and come out and sing and go out and get sick and go in. And I didn't. The show's got to go on, right? I did one in downtown Canton, the same thing. I had the flu, and they would take me in like the manhole down a ladder to the basement to get sick. and then I had to climb back up and go back out. There's a million stories like that. Like, I was in Minneapolis, in downtown Minneapolis, and this guy was driving in this car, and we were walking through a bunch of long-haired guys, and this guy is like a gangbanger kind of dude, and he like almost hit us with his car in this parking lot, and I'm like, what are you doing? And he reaches under like he's going to grab a gun. He said, you want some or something like that? And I turn around and all the guys in the band are gone.
I just left you standing there.
And I was standing there by myself, and I stood there and I said, what are you going to do? Obviously he didn't shoot me, but so many, I could go on and on and on about the craziness on the road.
You need to write a book.
Yeah, but then my girlfriend wouldn't like me anymore.
So do you guys get to travel around much for shows?
I try not to travel. I have 2 sons. One just moved into his own place, but my other one's still at home. I like to try to stay within 5 seconds of my front door. The only traveling I do is with the In the Heartland Band.
Besides the outdoor shows, what are some of your favorite local venues?
I do a lot of wineries playing acoustic. I love so many places. Schoolhouse Winery, that's in Dover. I love Hans Place. They have great cheese sticks. Amazing. I mean, I could go on and on. Broken Niblick in Strasburg, Hog Heaven, Lobies in Canton. I mean, I could go on and on. There are so many amazing venues in this area. It's just crazy.
Speaking of Strasburg, our producer extraordinaire here and host of History of Rock on DNP Saturdays at 4 o'clock, Larry Carroll, is with us. Hi, Larry.
Hi, Larry.
Hello.
Larry had a store, Music and More, which we could see right through the window here in Dover from our studio. Unfortunately, Larry, I noticed they took the sign down. Did you see that?
Yes. I saw that.
They painted the garage and took the sign down. Did you get the sign?
No, because I thought, where am I going to put it? The big sign.
Oh, Larry, we could have put it up somewhere. Yeah, we could have put it in here. That's history. That's Dover history. That was one of the best stores. I got so many CDs from Larry's stores, and I stole so many. No, I didn't. I was just kidding.
We did an interview with Stocker and Smalley. He used to give drum lessons over there at Larry's store back in the day, too. Going back, you had mentioned this a little bit before, but tell us a little bit more about your store in Strasburg.
It wasn't as cool as Larry's. It was whatever instruments I could throw in there and call it a music store, and I had CDs like Larry did. Larry set the standard in the area. I wasn't even a pimple on Larry's bootie.
How long did that store last? I'm sorry.
And Larry probably lost a lot more money than you did.
What was the name of the store?
Brooke Music.
Brooke Music. And how long did it last?
I don't even remember. Larry probably knows more because he's probably happy when I went out of business.
I don't remember. No.
I would say probably 3 to 5 years, somewhere in there.
I have quite the history with the music store. When I started in 85 at the Record Exchange, there were 2 stores. 35 years later, there were 31 stores.
Wow.
So give us an idea of some regular gigs or special upcoming projects or shows, where we can come see you play, where we can go online to find more information.
You can go to ericbrooke.com to check out my schedule or more information on everything.
That's Brooke.
Correct. Yeah, so we have some stuff coming up, including the Music Box in Cleveland. It's the Christmas show. Part of the proceeds go to Rainbow Babies and Children. We've done this, I think this is our 4th year.
That's the In the Heartland project?
Yeah, it's In the Heartland, and we'll have Michael Gismondi, Gary Markowski, Jennifer Lee from Ghost Poets and the Resonators, along with Danny Powers, who's at all of our shows and pretty much the heart of In the Heartland Band.
No relation to...
Randy Powers. No, unfortunately, no relation.
No,
he's much better looking and much more talented.
They're both relations to Austin Powers.
Gee, thanks.
Oh, yeah, baby.
Really? I thought I got past that in high school. Oh, you Randy, baby.
I didn't. Are you Randy, baby? Oh, yeah. I didn't know
this is all getting cut out, you know.
I didn't know you were in high school. I know you in high school, or I wouldn't have done it.
You know, Michael Stanley did the song My Town and made it Newtown.
Yeah, Newtown is my mall.
Interestingly, he changed city names all over the country for that song.
So, crazily enough, he did like, I think 50 different versions of that with different city names around the U.S.
Yep.
Isn't that wild?
Yep. Smart. Well, Eric, I want to thank you so much for coming into the DNP studio tonight and chatting with us.
it was such a great time. It's great to see Larry. You know, Larry and I go way back, and it was nice to meet you and your lovely lady.
It's been a real pleasure. I also want to thank all our listeners for tuning in and streaming. Let's leave off with one more of your originals. This is Back to Basics from our special music maker guest, Eric Brooke.
Lyman walked the streets of J-Town, just happy to be around. He was kinda slow, but I pretend that I didn't know. He'd hang out at the old Golden Arches and eat when he could. Just to talk to anyone there made Lyman feel so good. Then in walked the heartless ones to play their thoughtless games. I'd run them off when I could, and my friends would do the same. He was a sweet old harmless man who lived for life's sake. No politics, no manipulative tricks. What a beautiful life that would make. Let's take it back to the basics. Let's take it on back to the basics. Let's take it back to the basics. The basics of life. Molly was an only child, but that only lasted for a while. Through a C-section, Sheila was saved. Molly lost all the love she craved. She started doing things she knew were wrong, but that only lasted for so long. Her wrist lost the battle to a switchblade knife. Then a bottle of pills took her mother's life. Let's take it back to the basics. Let's take it on back to the basics. Yeah, let's take it back to the basics. The basics of life. Whatever happened to Father knows best. Respecting your elders and praying to God before rest. Let's take it back to the basics. Let's take it on back to the basics. Let's take it back to the basics. The basics of life. Yeah, the basics of life. Oh, yeah, the basics of life. The basics